Now remember, speaking of employees, I said that Home Depot's Facebook page is intentionally a place for its employees to gather also. Here's a post from Andres Villacaña, an associate from Home Depot in Mexico. He posts his love for Home Depot, as many Home Depot employees do on the Facebook page. Gina responds to him in Spanish, giving him an extra welcome by responding in his native language. Home Depot not only makes its customers welcome on their Facebook site, but they also want to make all of their retail associates welcome too. Home Depot shows an investment in its employees by having its corporate office, represented by the official Home Depot posts, respond to them and welcome them. Incidentally, Gina's response, "Buenos días, Andres, encantado de conocerle," means, "Good morning, Andres, nice to meet you." So these examples have been fairly straightforward, but here's a hard one. Stephen Sparks says, "I just seen that you all support gay pride and the homosexual agenda. I was a loyal shopper there for many years. I will be doing my shopping elsewhere from this day on." Now the backstory here is that Home Depot sponsored events at this year's Boston and Portland, Maine Gay Pride parades. And this was news for a few days, so for a few days it was huge on their Facebook page. So Stephen has expressed his discontent, and then the fight starts. Angelo Puglici, a gay man, makes a jab at the heterosexual divorce rate. Lee Bowers suggests Stephen should also boycott Facebook, one of whose founders was gay. Stevens responds again, offering the news article where he read about all of this. Angelo and Lee both write back in the great tradition of democracy and free speech. This is not exactly edifying public discourse. But the point is, do you notice where Home Depot's customer service representatives are in all of this? That's right. In the plentiful comments on this post, and there are far more than the 5 or 6 that I'm showing here, Home Depot takes a rare moment of complete silence. I'll say a bit more about that in a minute. So we've seen different kinds of Home Depot customer responses. What can your company learn from them in terms of how you handle customer service through Facebook and other social media sites? First, answer as much as possible and answer promptly. A big company like Home Depot needs a dedicated social media customer service team because of the volume of feedback they receive. Your company probably doesn't need quite that large a staff, but you should make sure you are responding to as many customer comments on your social media sites as possible, and doing so in a timely fashion. That's the kind of customer service people have come to expect through Facebook, Twitter, and so on. The second takeaway is to be willing to apologize and then take complaints offline. Well, not really offline so much as off of your public social media page. You'll notice that in all the customer complaints we looked at on the Home Depot site, the Home Depot representative was quick to offer an email address so the associate and the customer could be in touch directly, and most importantly, not publicly. The last thing you want to do is have a protracted argument with a customer there for all the world to see. Even if you're helping your customer and keeping your cool, you would rather have that interaction happen in the privacy of your email accounts than on your Facebook wall or Twitter feed. So don't be afraid to apologize when something goes wrong, but then steer the conversation to a less public venue. Takeaway number 3 is avoid hot potatoes. You remember when that man posted on the Home Depot site about Home Depot's support of gay people, and you remember that Home Depot was nowhere to be found in that conversation. When customers post social, political, or religious hot potatoes, those are the only times when it's okay not to respond. Let your fans duke it out for themselves. There is almost nothing you can say as a company that is going to satisfy people. Even if your company has a firm political or social stance on an issue, as it seems Home Depot might have, it will only alienate your customers to respond to their disagreements about it. Knowing how to navigate those issues is kind of tricky. The man who posted about Home Depot discriminating against veterans was bringing up a political issue, to be sure, but a much safer one than an issue like gay rights in the United States. So Home Depot rightfully stayed out of that debate. At the same time, they didn't delete the posts that brought up these tough topics. Home Depot's code of conduct, you remember, says that they do reserve the right to delete posts, but they exercise that right very selectively. You don't want to start deleting people's posts about particular hot potato issues because that suggests you aren't interested in free speech or conversation, which is one thing that social media is all about. So Home Depot did this just right. Let people air their hot potato issues, but avoided getting entangled in them as a company. Let the customers do their debating on your turf, but don't get entangled in it. The fourth takeaway is always to be aware of your audience. When I say audience here, I mean not the people who are posting directly to you, but the people who may be anonymously reading your posts. When you respond to a customer, you always want to assume that several other people not involved with the post will be reading your interaction. How will you respond in a way that gets a good message across to people reading the post? Even if you're not likely to improve your relationship with the customer you're talking to, how will the customer who reads your response hear what you're saying? Remember that a Facebook wall or Twitter feed is like a public park, and you always want to be on your best behavior because you never know who's watching. Always be aware of your audience. And the last takeaway is to acknowledge the good stuff. I made this point before about how Home Depot responds to customer comments. Make sure you say thank you when somebody says something nice. That shows you are not only interested in handling complaints, but that you enjoy and appreciate the positive too. Too often companies take positive comments for granted, so when you've got all your Facebook likers or Twitter followers watching how you respond, you want to be sure you're taking time for the good along with the not so good. Acknowledge good comments, and it doesn't hurt to let people know, as Tinsley's response did, that you'll be there for them if they ever have any issues also. So those are the takeaway, and now I see that we have some questions, so I'm going to start taking those.
I think this one's a little longer, so why don't I do that next slide and you can read this.
Okay, great. Dave's going to talk about our next slide, and then we're going to talk about a longer question we have and a few of the other questions we've got also.
Yeah, we've got a couple of great questions, and I want to make sure Ian has a chance to read this one so he can respond. So thank you, again, for the good questions. We'll get right to those. Just briefly, I wanted to remind some of you of the services that we've provided, that we've got available in support. A lot of these are driven by you as clients who've asked us to do these things, and we've responded, and hopefully there might be some companies on the webinar today that could benefit. One is a social media startup kit if you don't already have your social media presence up. And we've seen some clients that have set these up incorrectly, and so there is potentially a path to get them into a better place. If you haven't started, we can help get that done for you very inexpensively. The second thing is if you need help creating posts for your Facebook and social media presence, we've had clients who've asked us to help generate ideas and content, and we have that available now inexpensively. It's a monthly subscription, and we just give you a lot of content, and then you can grab from it and post it, so it can really help you in that regard. Help with advertising, and then also we've got the College Bowl Challenge available now for those of you that are playing the Pickett Pro Challenge, which is the weekly football contest. We've got the college one ready, and we're taking sign-ups. It's a great tie-in to your social media because you can post winners, updates, have a lot of fun with that. So if you want more information about that, let Ian or I know, and we'll give you more information on what the Pickett Bowl Challenge is. It's basically a contest you can run in your communities.
So let me respond to some of these questions that have come in. There's a really interesting one here, and I'm going to read the whole thing to you, and then I'll respond to it. This person wrote, we have a disgruntled customer that commented on her own Facebook page about our service, and it spread like wildfire. Then she went on to offer her customers a discount if they would post something negative about us on her page. We chose to ignore it, and it died down, but what would have been an appropriate response since it wasn't on our page? That is a hard situation and a really great question. It makes me chuckle a little bit in my head, only because for those of you who don't know, in my other half of my life, when I'm not at Pivot, I'm actually a part-time pastor in a church. And so this makes me think about what happens when you know that congregation members are talking about something, but it hasn't yet come to you, right? In this scenario, it has not yet come to this company's Facebook page. And so how do you respond to something that you know is out there and yet hasn't actually reached you? I think partially it depends on what the comments are. If there is an actual rumor being spread or something being said that is not true, for instance, you know, it's something that's saying that they won't honor such and such, or that they lied about this particular deal, or whatever it might be, that is a situation where I think that you can actually, either on your own Facebook page, when people come there to check it out for themselves, set the record straight there. And you don't have to say, you know, in reference to such and such person's post, you know, here's what we have to say. But I think there is room for addressing the rumor and and making sure that you have the truth of the matter on your own page. If it's just general negativity of this company stinks, they're not, we're a much better company. I actually think that the response that this company did choose, which was to ignore it, is the best that you can do. The best what you don't want to do is start creating a fight online where all of a sudden you're posting against somebody and they're posting against you, and nobody wins in a situation like that. And so for the best thing you can do in a situation where they're just spreading sort of general negativity is to be able to say, just model the best customer service and the best practices of a company that you possibly can on your Facebook page, and trust that it is going to die down. And it's painful and hard to watch as it's happening, but it will, in fact, it will die down eventually. So again, I think it depends on what kind of things they're saying and how you address it. But I do think those are a couple ways of handling it. Only in rare cases would I say that you should actually have somebody from your company post on that person's page. In a case like that, most likely the person is going to delete your response anyway. So if somebody is out for that much sort of vengeance, it's probably not going to do you a lot of good unless they're saying something that is just so awful that you really have to tell the truth on their page itself. Otherwise, I wouldn't get into that because that's just going to present a situation where there's mudslinging going on. So thank you for that question, and if you had any other questions about that, I do hope you'll let me know. Another question we had was how much time passes before it's too late to respond to customer posts? We can't check our pages daily, and sometimes it feels like we've missed the opportunity to respond. This, I think, especially for smaller companies, is a common challenge. Somebody might, comment on your Facebook page, and you don't notice it until a week or two later. And at that point, you think to yourself, is it too late to even respond at this point because we've waited this long? My answer to that would, in general, be it's never too late to respond. If a person has not seen a response from you and it's been 2 weeks, you can still respond and say, I'm really sorry that we never got back to you. Whatever excuse you might want to make, but do make sure you reach out to them and respond to them. I think that a late response is better than nothing. Better late than never, right? And one last question we have here is for a smaller company, how many people should be responsible for responding to customer comments? That's another good question, and I actually don't think it's as important the number of people you have responding to the customer comments as it is to think about how people who are responding are presenting themselves. A key and a thing that I think Home Depot does so well is that the people who are responding, Tinsley, April, and Gina, I know them by name now, right? You know that these are real people who are really taking your concerns seriously. They seem personable. They seem like real people. They're not sort of the kind of response that you might get from an online knowledge base or something like that. These are really personal responses from people who seem really human. So I don't think it matters how many people you have doing it, so long as that your answers are really responsible. So that I think wraps up the questions, and I see that we are out of time. Our last slide here, just showing you that, of course, there's our Facebook address and our Twitter feed. As always, this presentation is going to be available on the Facebook page. The next Straight Talk on Social Media webinar is going to be 2 weeks, and as I said earlier on in the presentation, our focus is going to be looking beyond Facebook and Twitter. And you can also see the date of the next Straight Talk on Telco Marketing webinar for our telecommunications clients. That's the final Wednesday of October, the 27th at 11 Pacific time. Finally, you see my email and Dave's email addresses there in case you have any questions for us. Otherwise, that's it for today. Thank you so much, and remember to keep your media social and your talk straight.